If I can welcome everyone for being here today. First, I want to start off by saying from Whiting, Indiana to the nation's capital, we are here today with the Labor Caucus, the local Steelworkers 7-1, and the international Steelworkers to send the message to British Petroleum that we stand behind labor. Very clearly, 800 families are locked out of employment at one of the busiest oil refineries in the inland in the United States of America. So I just want to give this quick timeline, and then we'll get to the Labor Caucus. In October of 2025, there was a fire at BP. 2 weeks later, there was an incident that shut it down where there was a release. And there were evacuations not only of the plant, of thousands of workers, but of the communities. In August, there was another incident of an oil spill that the Indiana Department of Environmental Management came and cited British Petroleum. The point that I bring up is this is a very dangerous job, and we have replacement workers who do not have the same training as the United Steelworkers. So I'm going to fast forward to the next report, financial report. $3.2 billion is what BP made in the first quarter of 2026. And in their annual report, they thanked the workers of the Whiting refinery for getting it back up online. Gas prices shot up because of those instances. This is important stuff. There are 800 families, friends and neighbors who are out of work because of a lockout, because pennies on a dollar. We have trained professionals that make sure our oil refinery in Northwest Indiana works and operates safely and efficiently and provides energy to our country. It is absolutely a national security issue. And so my point of today in bringing the Labor Caucus and the United Steelworkers is to tell Northwest Indiana, from Whiting, Indiana, to the nation's capital, we stand behind labor and we stand behind Local 7-1 and those families who are out of work for 92 days. I want to thank the community for coming together, because when Northwest Indiana when the steelworkers are locked out in Northwest Indiana stands in solidarity. Churches, faith-based organizations, trustees, local government, local businesses are all supporting those families because it is a solidarity moment for us. So at this time, I'd like to bring up Roxanne Brown, the International President of the United Steelworkers, and a force multiplier when it comes to the voice of labor. Roxanne Brown. Thank you, Roxanne.
Thank you so much, Congressman Mrvan. And I just want to take a moment just to not just thank Congressman Mrvan, but the entire delegation of congressional members that are here today who are not inside the district of Whiting, not anywhere near Whiting, but standing here in solidarity. And I really want to thank Eric Shultz, who is the local president, 7-1, for the steelworkers at the Whiting Local. Today really is about shining light on shameful behavior, and I think Congressman laid it out really, really well. BP is engaged in what is essentially an effort to break the union. They are engaged in an effort to weaken labor standards, to weaken protections, to eliminate jobs that quite literally, and the congressman can speak to this, help to feed a community, help to stand up a community. There is a jobs multiplier that comes with every single one of those 800 plus jobs that are at that refinery. And BP is standing in the way of those families earning a living, those families being able to put food on their kids' tables, those families being able to pay mortgage, to pay rent, to buy groceries at a time when every single American can tell you they're struggling right now paying their bills. But instead of sitting in their shame, BP is digging down and they have made a decision to continue to suppress the rights of our members to collectively bargain by refusing to bargain in good faith with our members. And to that we say shame. Steelworkers, what do we say? Shame. We will not accept it. And so today, we are so proud to bring our voices to Capitol Hill and show BP that we are not powerless and we are not in this fight alone. We stand not just with each other, but we have a whole legion of people standing next to us, behind us, and in front of us as we charge ahead to fight. This is not complicated. It is not rocket science. This is about dignity. This is about fairness. And it's about safety. I was standing and talking to a sister outside the hallway here, and she lives in the community. And she talked about the incident that happened, I guess, a few weeks ago, Eric, where she said it was one of the scariest things she's ever seen her entire time living in that community. Why? Because the people who are operating that refinery are not steelworkers. They are not people who are skilled and knowledgeable and have the expertise to operate that refinery safely. And so that puts a community at risk. And the community understands that, and I want to say an extra special thanks to the community of Whiting, because I've been on that line now with 7-1, and you can't even hear yourself speak because of all of the honking horns and support from the community. They understand what's at stake. And so I'm so proud to stand here with not just Eric, but again with this congressional delegation. Thank you for the leadership. Congressman Mrvan, you've been there, lockstep with this local, and we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxanne. And at this time, I also want to make sure that I thank the local 7-1 who traveled here to be here present in Washington, in our nation's capital. Eric Shultz, who epitomizes the ability to galvanize and understand what collective bargaining is, and to be able to understand what solidarity is. Because after 92 days of no income, it gets challenging to keep men and women together. And with that, Eric Shultz, the president of the local 7-1. Thank you, Eric.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Congressman Mrvan, for putting this together on short notice. Thank you, President Roxanne Brown, for all your leadership. Thank you to the entire delegation that stands in support of us. My name is Eric Shultz. I'm the president of United Steelworkers Local 7-1 out of Whiting, Indiana. As you've heard, for more than 3 months, approximately 800 workers have been locked out by British Petroleum. Locked out not because of demands that our members are making, not because of demands that we've put on the table, but because of concessionary demands that British Petroleum has put on the table, and they're absolutely hell-bent on taking from us. As Congressman Mrvan pointed out, $3.2 billion profit in the first quarter while our members were in there working after we put the refinery back together again. $3.2 billion in profit, yet they want concessions from our members, drastic concessions. Elimination of over 100 jobs. Initial proposal was 200 jobs. Elimination of bargaining rights over ways of working, job classifications, pay, training, artificial intelligence, massive concessions from a company that made $3.2 billion in 1 quarter. Shame. This lockout, it's not just a dispute on paper. I have to stress that. This is personal. There are 800 men and women and their families that are going without a paycheck, having to work 2 and 3 jobs, trying to make ends meet, while British Petroleum sits back in the hopes that they're going to starve us out. We have 800 men and women that are frustrated in the streets. They didn't walk out on their jobs. This is not a strike. They want to be at work. We want to be at work. Our ask, our demand is that British Petroleum get to the table and for the first time for the first time, bargain in good faith to get a fair contract, a contract that respects the workers that make those profits. Our other demand is that they end this lockout while we get back to the table so that these men and women can get back into the refinery so that we can put our communities back together again. These are parents that are active in the churches, active in their community, active in their sports teams. They can't do that right now because they don't have a job and they're trying to make ends meet. Between working the picket shifts every 10 days and going out and finding 2 and 3 jobs, they're doing the best that they can do. We demand that they end this lockout, get them back to work. At the same time, as President Brown and Congressman Mrvan had mentioned, and I can't stress this enough, there are serious safety issues inside that refinery right now, serious safety issues with the community. It's things, as Congressman Mrvan said, we're not without incidents when our members are in that refinery. It is a dangerous place to work. It's dangerous because the oil industry notoriously does not like to fix things. They notoriously do not want to put money into it. British Petroleum notoriously runs to failure. Bad things happen when we're in there. When we're not in there, those bad things are going to happen, but you're going to have people in there that don't know how to respond to it. This is a very serious concern for we are seriously concerned about the replacement workers that are in there, about the BP employees that are in there. Those are our friends and family. Whiting, Northwest Indiana, it's a tight-knit community. We don't want to see anything bad happen. British Petroleum is gambling with those people's health and safety, with the health and safety of the community. So, again, I can't thank you guys enough to this delegation for standing here on short order. Can't thank Congressman Mrvan and Roxanne, President Brown enough. We ask that everyone do your part, anything you can do to help put pressure on British Petroleum to end this lockout and get to the table and bargain for the first time in good faith for a fair contract.
At this time, I'd like to bring up one of the strongest voices for labor, and I might add, if you have innocent ears, put your earmuffs on. Debbie Dingell, who is a voice, Representative Debbie Dingell, a voice for labor and does not hold back. Representative.
So I'm going to, Ron Bieber, who's the president of the AFL-CIO in Michigan, says indoor voice, outdoor voice. I'll try to use my indoor voice. I want to thank Frank Mrvan for his leadership, his caring, his bringing this to our attention as soon as it's happened and trying to show a company that's screwing the workers, we're not going to stand for it. And I want to thank President Brown and President Shultz. I've stood with President Brown. I know what happens when corporations screw workers and try to break contracts. They don't want. You know, the in thing right now for these billionaires in this corporation is to try to break unions. And I thank the men and women in Indiana that are standing up and not going to let themselves be broken. And now is a time, you can't do it. This is a time to remind people, you know, we're seeing this pattern, to remind people that unions are who created good working jobs in this country. That people take for granted what they have. A 40-hour work week, overtime, sick pay, trying to still protect those pensions, safe working conditions. Well, BP is sending a message they don't give a shit about safe working conditions. Because when they're bringing in people that are not trained for these jobs, I've seen what happens. And you are right. You care about the people in your community because you don't want something to happen that is going to hurt the workers, or quite frankly, if it's something really bad. And I've seen what happens when something really bad happens, when communities are poisoned or fires or there's something that happens. So we need to be here today and remind people what BP is doing is wrong. These aren't just workers. They are skilled technicians, maintenance operators, emergency responders, people who have spent their life keeping this refinery running safely and efficiently. And BP locked them out. So right now we're fighting for this community and for those workers. But I want to make another point. And I'm proud to be here with my labor co-chairs and other members of the Labor Caucus. Working men and women are the backbone of this country. Billionaires and corporations are trying to screw the working men and women today who can they can barely get by with the wages they're making, and they're not even fighting over their wages. We got to fight to ensure that benefits that have been earned are protected. But we also have to make sure that the $3.4 billion, really? Come on. People are hurting today. Working men and women need somebody willing to fight for them, to stand up for them, and to protect what unions earned for workers after the last few decades. People are trying to take us backward, and we need to say, I know my staff's going to get me to behave. I'll just say F you, because we're going to fight for working men and women every day.
I absolutely said earmuffs. At this time, if I could, I'd like to, in the most recent weeks, I'd like to introduce, and I just mean this, labor royalty. He was able to pass a bill, Representative Norcross, that was faster labor contracts, and he did it in a bipartisan way. We did it in a bipartisan way to help all of labor. He's a IBEW member. He has spent time in the mills. He is labor through and through, and from the Labor Caucus and from New Jersey, Representative Norcross.
Thank you, Frank, for his kind words. As I like to say, there's 180 lawyers in Congress, but there's only one union electrician. There's only one union painter. And the Labor Caucus, that's why we formed it, to bring the issues of working men and women to the halls of Congress. So it's great to have you here, President Brown. Eric, God bless you, my brother. It is rough out there. I spent the better part of the first half of my life working in refineries. I know exactly what they're like. Up and down the Delaware River between New Jersey, Delaware, and Pennsylvania are a half dozen refineries I spent time in. They are dangerous places by their nature. And only having the right skilled people at the right time is what has to happen there in order to ensure the community, not only the workers inside, but when those refineries go bad, they go really bad, and it spreads out throughout the area. So having those communities, having your back, they understand. Because they're not collecting unemployment. If you're locked out in New Jersey, you collect unemployment. Indiana doesn't give it to them. You're in purgatory of hell. You're not in heaven, you're not in hell. You're in that place where you're unemployed and can't collect insurance. You've heard the number. The profits rose by 453% year over year for this quarter. Think about that. The CEO, $16 million a year, and he locks his workers out. This is what we're dealing with. It's like the Revolutionary War, King George over there in England trying to screw the people of the United States. This time we're a little bit bigger. If you don't want to play by our rules and take care of our people in our country, go the fuck back where you came from. I got no problem with that. We have relationships with Great Britain. And you know what? When we go back, we're going to make some phone calls saying, what are you doing here? You don't treat your workers that way back there. Don't treat them in America the same way. Come here, treat our people right, or get the fuck out. Thank you.
At this time, from Wisconsin, one of the labor co-chairs and also a union painter, Mark Pocan, who is a strong voice from Wisconsin for working men and women and is relentless. on the Appropriations Committee and someone who lives, breathes for working men and women every single day. Mark Hogan.
Well, it's great to be here, and I want to give extra credit here to Frank Mrvan. There is not often that we do a press conference in Washington, D.C. about an action. This is a very egregious action. We just don't do this often because not many members go past the talk to actually go to the walk and get stuff done. And Frank is one of those folks who does that. So thank you, Frank, for fighting so hard for your constituents and for the people working in northwestern Indiana. I spent over 30 years as a member of IUPAT. I was a union contractor, did the work, but also owned the shop and had a union shop, did signs and specialty printing. And I can't imagine getting to the point that you would lock out your workers over a contract. That's going to a stage that's honestly unacceptable by even most companies' standards when they're doing negotiations. Because you have to respect the people that are making you money. The reason BP's making that kind of money is not because of their equipment or because of their logo, it's because of the people who work in the facilities. And when you have those skilled workers, and this is really skilled workers in this area doing that work, that's how you become profitable enough to make billions and pay your CEO millions. But when you lock those folks out and take the risk of what could happen, it's about as Trumpian as you can get. And I will just say, imagine the reflecting pool as I say that. Here's a little bit about BP's history. They've had explosions and other activities at refining facilities in Texas, and this is just in this century I'm talking. They have had OSHA having described systematic process safety problems at their facilities, and even at that Texas facility, it was the union who warned them about unsafe staffing, and BP harassed the workers who brought up the concerns. They've had this in Toledo, they've had problems. And at this very facility, they've had issues. But this is not work that you want the untrained. Someone picking up some extra work at $100 and whatever dollars an hour they're offering to pick people up. This is an effort to try to bust a union, to try to bust the workers who've put their lives' commitments to making money for a company, but to support their family. So I just want to say, Frank, thank you again for highlighting it in this way, because they should be shamed nationally for what they're doing, but also they should get their shit together and get this done right. And the way you do it right is you get back to the table, negotiate, and give people a fair contract.
At this time, I would like to, our neighbor from the Chicagoland area and an individual who is retiring and should be known for someone as his legacy from the hard knocks of Chicago politics, making it here and standing up for men and women and his values each and every day, my good friend, Chuy Garcia.
Thank you so much, Frank Mrvan, and so proud to stand with President Brown and President Shultz this afternoon. As someone who represents an overwhelmingly working class district, someone who became a Teamster right out of high school, was a founding member of a union at the Legal Assistance Foundation, United Auto Workers, I'm proud to stand here in solidarity with the workers at the BP plant, Local 701, United Steelworkers of America. Because whatever comes of this lockout and the resistance and the pushback from workers, from their families, from the communities, and from the region is how workers who want to be unionized will fare in the near future. That is what is at stake. This isn't just a labor dispute. This is a greedy, cruel lockout at a time of unprecedented profits for the company. Our call today is for BP a transnational corporation to do the right thing, to sit down and collectively bargain with the workers at Local 7-1. I'm not sure what the dash stands for, but it sounds good to me. And let me tell you why it's also important. Because the actions of this corporation are more than an attack on workers' rights. They're putting the community's safety at risk by bringing inexperienced replacement workers. And it's not surprising that BP has a history of catastrophic environmental disasters, as has been pointed out, and workplace safety failures that have cost lives. And BP also has a long history outside the U.S. of repressing labor organizing. They've done it in Colombia, they've done it in South Africa, and because of that, they've faced lawsuits for labor suppression of activism. And now they're implementing similar practices in the U.S. because the profits they're making are enormous. This is a time when working families across the country are hurting. It's time to share the wealth. It's time to give families an opportunity. And we may be here on Friday at the rally that is being held in Chicago, but we will urge our fellow elected officials from the City Council, from the State Legislature, the Cook County Board, to join with you, because working families got to stick together, and we're sticking by steel workers who have been unfairly locked out by a greedy corporation. Time to end the lockout, time to collectively bargain, time to protect workers and their families. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to introduce Representative Nikki Baczynski, who is a rising star and a shining star for labor, and who walks the walk. And every single action she thinks about and wants to know how it affects working men and women, our economy, and labor unions. Nikki Baczynski.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to say a huge thank you to Frank Mrvan for all of your leadership on this issue. Frank is also the co-chair of our Steel Caucus, which I'm a very proud member of. And I'm here today to just stand with the United Steelworkers, to stand with the hard-working men and women in Whiting, Indiana, who have been locked out for far too long, to say to this company, and Frank Mrvan led a letter to the CEO, Meg O'Neill, to say, end this lockout right now. Respect the work and the expertise of these hardworking men and women who have been making you profit day in and day out, and come back to the bargaining table. It's a simple request. It is respecting the dignity of work, and again, a profitable company like BP should be at the table wanting what's best, not just for those working people, not just for those United Steelworkers, but the community as a whole. And they are unfairly and unjustly shutting and locking out these folks. And so it has gone on for far, far too long. I'm always proud to stand with the United Steelworkers. I represent a community, Granite City, Illinois, that is a mill town that knows a fight. And I would just say to BP, if you're underestimating the steelworkers, you're making a huge mistake. We will be there, yes. So I am just here to lend my support every day, every night to the men and women of the steelworkers to get us this contract that they so rightfully deserve. So thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Nikki. So in closing, what I want to say is Nikki hit the nail on the head. To British Petroleum, you are underestimating the solidarity of Northwest Indiana, the steelworkers, and the trades and all union members in our community. You are endangering our community by putting replacement workers who are not trained, and you are absolutely affecting our national security and energy costs. With that, I call upon the administration to join us, because this is a bipartisan fight. We had the governor of Indiana, Governor Braun, Republican, join 7-1 and walk the line and ask them to bargain in good faith. So I call upon the administration, who asks for labor support, who touts being a working men and women supporter. Now is your opportunity, where British Petroleum, an international offshore company, is affecting American jobs and 800 families in Northwest Indiana. And I close with a quote from Abraham Lincoln: "All that harms labor is treason to America." Thank you very much.